The making of a Sire. Flying Cowboy 123. In the last episode, Flying Cowboy 123 made his way into qualifying into his first Grade 1 event, into the 2018 Rainbow Futurity, and it was the first time he had faced Grade 1 Futurity caliber horses in a final up on the mountain.
Oh yeah, he run third in a Grade 1. We wasn't disappointed at all. We figured, we'll hopefully a pull-up sound, we'll go the next one. And he did. He pulled up really well and just trucked on the next one.
But this horse has always been not a problem. He had this difficulty, he had that difficulty. Expect him to run up front next time he goes out. And that's been way with him all the way through his career.
After a third place finish in the Rainbow Futurity, which eventually saw him being placed second after disqualification, the apolitical Jess Colt was poised to contest the All-American Futurity Trials 26 days later after the Rainbow Futurity final at the distance of 440 yards. Like many trial days in Ruidoso, the weather can be very fickle, with tenths of a second deciding who participates in the finals and who doesn't. The weather can be everything. On day one of the All-American Futurity Trials in 2018, Flying Cowboy 123 drew into the sixth race, with pending bad weather looming off in the distance, playing havoc on the wind direction, and at post time, the Blainwood trainee in race 6 would be faced with an 11-mile-per-hour crosswind.
They're running. Lethal Lil didn't get out the greatest. Flying Cowboy 123 is fast, along with CD Dark Moon Horizon. And here's Pie Pie's flashback, and Lethal Lil is finally rolling, and she could be very lethal. She is moving fast. She's up alongside Flying Cowboy 123. Pie Pie's flashback couldn't go with these two, but Flying Cowboy 123 holds off Lethal Lil, and in fact pulled away toward the end. Flying Cowboy 123, the winner.
The first race of the day had a 7-mile-per-hour tailwind with 2 horses making the field of the All-American Futurity, and race 2 had a 6-mile-per-hour tailwind with another horse getting into the field with 16 trials on the day. Race 3, race 4, and race 5 all had tailwinds, and then the wind shifted for the worst. At post time for the 6th race, Flying Cowboy 123 faced an 11-mile-per-hour crosswind, with him finishing with a time of 21.902 seconds. And even though it was only the 6th race of the day of 16 trial races, the Blainwood trainee was already eliminated from making the finals of the All-American Futurity, despite winning his trial in very impressive fashion.
He won his trial heat, outrun Lethal Lil, which they had a good race. And he won it convincingly, but it just wasn't fast enough. He had a crosswind, or I think it had a wind factor. And, I know he did. Was 11 miles an hour, I believe what it was, and I think that kept him from qualifying. Just bad part of the day for him. Unlucky. Ruidoso weather.
We were pointing the horse going into the All-American trials, and the horse was training good, doing good going into the All-American, and we just had bad luck. He won his trial pretty impressively, but it wasn't fast enough. The time wasn't fast enough due to a headwind. So we just packed up our things and moved them on to Lone Star.
Coming off the mountain to this humidity down here in Dallas, at the time when we come down here, some horses kind of back up a little bit, off their grain a little bit, but this horse took it just fine. And lucky enough for us that we had time to get him right for the Texas Classic. Some of them horses that come off the mountain, literally 2 weeks later, are in the Dash for Cash Futurity, which is that first weekend of Dallas. And he wasn't paid up in that, so we knew we had a little time to get him right.
Yeah, I think Cowboy, at certain times, they have horses for courses. And you can have horses, say a horse Ruidoso, you can't get to win, you can move him somewhere else, Lone Star, for example, and you can't outrun them, and vice versa. So, but I think Cowboy, he really is partial to Lone Star. I think he thinks that's his home turf.
Thus far in his racing career, the $100,000 Ruidoso sales purchase had qualified into and ran second in a Grade 1 Futurity up on the mountain, and up to this point had returned his initial investments with earnings over $190,000 going into the trials of the Grade 1 Texas Classic Futurity, which is a $1 million event.
And they're off. Flying Cowboy 1, 2, 3, no issues on the extreme outside. A. Jackson, the yellow out quickly. The Fish Cartel toward the inside. All Sophia Wanted from between horses is up close. Flying Cowboy 1, 2, 3, very impressive. Daylighting this field. Tight for second, the Fish Cartel.
At the end of the night of qualifying, Flying Cowboy 123 and jockey Ricky Ramirez had set the fastest time coming out of the trials for the Texas Classic Futurity, as well as making the field with the 9th fastest qualifier, Apocalyptical Jess, who was coming off of a win in the Grade 1 All-American Futurity on Labor Day, a race that Ricky had qualified the eventual winner into, but opted to ride the Rainbow Futurity winner MM4 in the morning, who finished 5th in that race. Now, Ramirez had the tough choice of choosing the fastest qualifier, Flying Cowboy 123, or the All-American Futurity winner, Apocalyptical Jess, going into the Texas Classic Finals.
Not only did Cowboy qualify for the Texas Classic, but so did the Apocalyptical Jess. And I finally learned how to say that name. But anyway, Ricky had another decision to make. And Apocalyptical in the trials, he did not get away really well. He didn't run his race, and but Ricky had to decide on who he wanted to ride. He did. He took flight. He decided to go with Cowboy 1, 2, 3, and I think at that point in juncture, he thought Cowboy 1, 2, 3 was doing the best.
Apocalyptical Jess out quickly. Eagles fly higher on the inside. Flying Cowboy 1, 2, 3. Long wagon hole with solid green. And Danger way on the far outside. It is Eagles fly higher. Flying Cowboy 1, 2, 3. Trying to get him in the Texas Classic Futurity. Flying Cowboy 1, 2, 3. Came on, but very close to the wire. With Eagles fly higher. And
Cowboy left in front. Left there with them. Had a good race. I thought that was probably I thought that was probably his second best race he had ever ran up to this point. And got a check. I was proud for Ricky. You know, that puts a lot of pressure on Ricky, and we're fortunate enough sometimes to have more than one qualifier. And Ricky, that's a tough spot to be in.
The apolitical Jess colt prevails in the Texas Classic Futurity, giving his connections a $451,000 payday from the 400-yard event to close out his 2-year-old campaign on a very high note.
You know, 400 yards was that horse needed every bit of 400 yards. He didn't get away today like he did in the trials, but about halfway down the track, he just came in there gear and finished very strong.
Tell me about the one horse. I mean, you had to chase him.
Oh, the Eagles fly higher on me. When he broke, he had me linked, maybe linked and a half, and you know, I did my best not to panic. I kept my cool and just waited for the horse to get hold of the racetrack and finish strong, and which was what I was hoping for, and he did.
Did you feel to pick right?
Oh man, it's just an awesome feeling. You know, it's hard when you get in these situations, but it's a good problem to have, and we're just blessed that we made the right choice this time. We knew that Blaine gets his horses ready for the end, the All-American and the Texas Classic, so Cowboy is ready for this race. And it just seems to suit Blaine's training style that he has his horses ready to run here. Yeah, it's exciting. It shows credence to our program. It tells me I did a good job in picking a trainer and a vet and a farm manager and the people we have working for us, that not only these horses that we buy and race and leave at the trainers, but we have some crop of yearlings and weanlings coming that I think will follow in Cowboy's footstep and make some great horses, great studs and great mares to have some great babies.
Bob Moore Farms in Norman, Oklahoma is proud to announce the arrival of their prized package. The hottest sire prospect of 2019 has left the racetrack and arrived at Bob Moore Farms. The sensational Flying Cowboy 123. fresh off of a win in the 2019 edition of the Texas Classic Derby. With only 3 horses in history to have won both the Classic Futurity and the Derby.
Cowboy 1, 2, 3 won the Texas Classic Futurity and now Derby.
Standing at Bob Moore Farms in Norman, Oklahoma, Flying Cowboy 1, 2, 3.